Hello everyone and welcome to section 7 conditional formatting. In this video we're going to take a look at number formatting. Now it's pretty self-explanatory of what it will do based off of the conditions, but we'll go through some of the ways you can do it. Now the big thing to keep in mind is numbers are formatted in a special way. You can have a number be a number and by default it will be on the right side. If, for example, you have this apostrophe which will show it as a text, it would by default be on the left side. That is important because if it's not formatted as a number, so this is text, then it will not work. Keep that in mind as you are using that, just in case there are some numbers not working. That could be one of the reasons. First off, let's do greater than. It'll give you a value or formula. So you could say something greater than 0. You hit done, and if you put 0, it's not. 1 would, and -1 would not. Greater than or equal to, and we can do the same rule of 0, then means that it's going to be not only greater than, like a 1 or more, but also 0 would be highlighted. Less than, similar thing, and we'll just do 0, and let's have it yellow. If it is 0, it is not less than 0, but -1 is. 1 will not. And then let's just add another rule. We'll switch this to C6 and then have it less than or equal to. And we can make this kind of orangish color. And now if you put 0, since that's less than or equal to, it will be there. The next rule will be is equal to. And if we say 0, that means it has to be 0 for it to show the color. Anything above or below will not be equal to. Is not equal to will be the opposite. So if you still have it 0, that means anything else that is not 0 is going to show. Now this one is interesting where blank is not 0, so that's going to be 0. And a 1 would be negative, but even text. Whereas all these other rules, if you put some text on there, wouldn't show. I'm just going to do Control-Z to undo those. In between and is not in between are the most different, and that is because they have two values you can do. So let's say we do 0 up to 11, and we'll make this purple. In between will include the two numbers that you specify. So once when you go above 11, it will stop. If you go under 0, it will stop. But if you have it exactly in those numbers are included. And in that same way, is not between is the opposite. So if I do 0 through 11, let's make this kind of reddish color, then 0 will not show, 11 will not show, and 12 will, and -1 will. So it's anything outside of those. But in is between is kind of is equal or between. Pretty much all of those. Again, you could read them and pretty much know what to do with those. To get into some of those more advanced ones, let's say here in this value is greater than 0. Let's say that you have a number here. So let's switch it to 1. And this is E2. One thing you can do instead of a value is you can use a formula. So if I do equal, and then I'm going to put absolute references, E, absolute reference 2, and that locks in. So no matter where this conditional formatting rule is, it will always reference this one here. If I moved one of these, then as the formula moves, it will also move. And let's make this one this kind of bluish green color. And now it is saying if this number is greater than whatever this number is. So right now it's not, but in this, if I do -2, then this will actually show. And that's where this can be helpful. Let's just do E all the way down to 10. Done. And you can see here, as this moves, so let's say 0, it'll actually adjust from there. -1, it'll show those ones, but not equal to. Again, if you have something like a conversion rate or you have a certain number that you're trying to identify which ones are greater than, this can be a helpful way to not only adjust the numbers in your own fields here with the formatting rule, but also adjust whatever that number is that you are looking at. So if you have one that's 10, then once you get to 11, that will show. Note too that these rules, since this is at the top, will override any other rules if both conditions are there. That's again using a formula, and you can get even more advanced in those formulas. Really anything that you can do inside of a cell that ends with a true or a false, that can be converted into a condition formatting rule. Now, let's say that you have this table here. A lot of ones that are numbers, the majority are. And what you can do is you could highlight something, the entire row, add a rule, and say, if the number is greater than, let's just say 0. Maybe because these are fees, you want to have orange. And that will highlight those different components that do have a value in them greater than 0. Now, other things you can do too is we can go here and maybe you want to add a rule, like you want to find which ones are in grades 3 or higher. Now you can see that these are in decimal points, and essentially these sections would be the first number is the grade, and then next is the section. So this is the section 2 of grade 1. So you could say, knowing those things, something that's greater than or equal to 3. So you can see that the 3.2 is greater than 3. Now again, if you do something like 3.2 or 3.3, you can see that some of those ones are being removed. But 3, this is considered 3.000, so all of those ones would be highlighted. And that could help because maybe those are your grades that are in one wing, like upper elementary. There's a lot of different places that you can apply these to, but ultimately it just comes down to being able to highlight specific information if it is meeting a certain criteria. So hopefully you find this helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment. Do those social things, like, share, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Bye now.